Good morning. I'm going to go into something that a couple of friends of mine, one of my work with, and one of my lady friends on Facebook, they noticed a statement that I had made in one of my previous videos about when I was in Georgia. I had said that the guy who I used to be, I came to understand that he was a problem. And so I lynched him. I pretty much put him to death. Now, even though that's a very common statement, because when you're living, you go through different levels of transformation. And of course, there's a dual component with everything, even with growth. You know, people feel as though growth is a one-dimensional thing, that when you grow, the only thing that's gonna be revealed is what most people would consider positive. But there's a positive and a negative with everything, even with growth. A brother of mine's named Brother Angel, I was talking to him on the phone, and I said the same thing to him as far as how my times in Georgia had affected me and it changed me. And I had explained to him that the guy who I used to be, he's dead. You know, I had explained to him that that guy who y'all used to know, that brother David that you used to know, he no longer exists. I came to realize that his thinking process was the problem. And his thinking process is what placed me in Georgia in order to suffer everything that I went through out there. But however, things like that are supposed to happen to, you might as well say, exalt you to a certain stage of enlightenment. So I was going to eventually do a video on this, but obviously it's time, you know, because people are asking me what I meant and everything. So now this video is going to open up rather slow because there's some footage that I'm going to have to put in front of it in order to explain what I meant by that, by my former self being the real problem. And his thinking process was very common. And whenever your thinking process is very common, in living in a world like this, you have to be very careful because that common way of thinking will get you in trouble. It just is. It just is. You know, a lot of people out here who are wicked, a lot of people who are soulless will talk that same language in order to reel you into their lives because they have an ulterior motive. You know, they have a hidden motive. And the woman who I moved to Georgia to be with, Salam Yilma, she always had a motive. And but the footage that I'm going to put before this is going to explain one of the primary reasons why that actually worked. And it got me to Georgia. And after I got to Georgia, I suffered a very terribly cruel but beautiful lesson of self-analysis and death, inner death. You know, so with all of that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and start this. I'm going to put it together. Now, this is going to be lengthy, you know, it's going to be long. Now, if you're not interested, then just, like I say all the time, just move on. Just move on. or come back to it, or whatever the case may be, you know. But I've been meaning to make a video on that anyway, in order to explain it. But you know, a whole lot of people understand it. When part of you needs to die in order for you to live, because that former self and his or her thinking process, sometimes you have to go through a whole lot of pain and humiliation in order to understand that that person needs to die. That person needs to die. So the death of the self is a lot of times necessary. And so, like I said, this is going to be a lengthy video. And so I'm going to go ahead and just put it together. And like I said, those of you who are interested in this subject, you're welcome to listen. And those who are find themselves not as interested, just move on. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and get this started. Now, as far as the subject of being a Hebrew, I was getting messages about, well, you know, that's our history, and we're the real Hebrews, and all of those, you know, all of that language, you know, and they were angry at me because I don't follow that language, you know, and oh, you Uncle Tom, and you Coon, you do this, you know. I've been called a whole lot of things all my life, and considering what I've just been through in terms of my times in Georgia, the person who would normally be outraged, hurt, and disturbed in people calling me out my name, that man is dead. I lynched him and left him he's dead. I left him in Georgia because I felt as though that brother was a problem. And so calling me names, threatening me, you know, threatening my life, you're not moving me. I don't care. You know, people talk about me all the time, you know. I was in ministry and everybody was talking about me behind my back. And, you know, it's no big deal. I mean, there's really nothing that I haven't been through in terms of being mocked and disrespected. You know, that's a lot where my humility comes from, you know, and I admit that's a lot of where my coldness comes from, you know, because you can't care about everything people say. You can't care about how people think. You know, that's why I'm almost 60 years old and I still don't have any high blood pressure, because I don't give a fuck. Okay? You know, as long as I can pick up the phone and call my sons, I really don't care. I really don't care.
My grandfather had expressed to me one day, David, never live by way of expectations. We fail to understand the danger of the ease of listening to words clearly understood by way of the language without perceiving the vital importance of what is being said. However, as we venture into the living journey, we come to know that those words mean fundamentally in effect of our lives. I would have never known that I could have been making the biggest mistake of my life when I left a place which I was clearly not happy in. This is the complexity of the dilemma. I was no longer happy in Las Vegas, and thus I was not content, at peace within myself. The night I left, which was June the 5th, and looking down at the city, which was so cruel to me in so many areas in my living there, My only thoughts were of my two sons. They were primarily the only reason for my being there for so many years. After they became adults, as well as my time was coming to an end there, I met someone which I thought was going to be an important part of my fulfilling a part of my life that has been needing closure, and that was having a woman in my life, which I was able to be one with. I this night ponder upon my giving up all of which I remain saying I was not content with, and know that I only was trying to find peace in my existence, feeling that my peace was imbued inside of someone else other than myself. This is the dangers of expectations which my grandfather was implying. I find that despite all of this failing in the manner that it did, not too long after arriving here in Atlanta and onto Lithonia, Georgia, I still remain willing to create a life for myself here. I miss my sons terribly, and all that I am able to think of this night as I observed this video of how was it that I was able to leave them in such a place which I hated. I find that in this thought is only a clear indication of our lives becoming more separated in terms of destiny, even though we will forever be one. This journey that is my life has forever been one of complications and imbued with an immense measurement of information, coupled with a wisdom that is the only reason of why I have never suffered insanity, considering all of which I have suffered in every area of my life where there are those who are supposed to be a refuge for my mind because of the closeness they were supposed to possess for my being. And all of this in the past 5 months, I have come to know that your only refuge is your dedication to your life and being responsible and never allowing yourself to be convinced to sacrifice anything for anyone without sufficient investigation. Not all things are as they seem, but beyond all of the disappointments and the sacrifices made for the sake of change, all things will resolve themselves, and we will understand all of this clearly. Above all challenges, it will forever be most important to remain human.
How well can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. Yep. You was right, though,
What?
about what you texted me about making better decisions.
Yeah, because, to be honest, man, like, you're good for everything, but when it comes to, like, the women in the past 11 years, man, you have definitely not been good when it comes to them. That's just being honest with you.
No, you're right.
I don't know, why is that or whatever, because you're great at everything else, but what is it about you and women, like, that you just don't choose them right or whatever? I'm asking you because I don't know that you know, and I'm not around you. I can't just tell other than what you tell me.
I just think that it has everything to do with from my thoughts about it is not only having bad examples around me, but put it like this. There was this Hispanic young man that I used to work with at the Wynn, and he was seeing this other Hispanic girl at the job, and he had gotten to the point to where he just wasn't interested in her no more, so he just walked away from her, and she was devastated. Me and her was working the showroom one day, and I knew something was wrong with her. She was real quiet, and so I pulled it out of her, and I asked her. I don't recall his name right now. I mean, I know his name. It's just that walk today kind of exhausted me. So my memory is not real sharp right now. But she said that they had broke up and everything. So, and she took it real bad. And she comes from a broken family.
Mm-hmm.
When I had questioned him about it, he said, "Hey man, I just felt like I just wasn't interested in no more. She just wasn't for me, so I just moved on." And he got him another woman and just moved on. He said he felt like he didn't need it, and he just moved on. And as me and him was working together, all of a sudden something hit me, and I asked him, I said, "You got both parents at home, don't you?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You real close to your parents?" He said, "Yeah, man, I'm real close to both of them." I said, "So you're not lacking love in any areas or anything like that?" He said, "No." I said, that makes it easier for you to walk away from relationships. I said, because you're not lacking anything in that particular area, when it comes to love and attention and things and such. I said, because you've always had that in your life, and so once you get involved with someone outside of that, of course it's on another level, but your foundation when it comes to having love fulfilled, it's fulfilled, and that makes you more intellectual and less emotional. Yeah, I'm getting to something. And he had agreed. Now, her situation was otherwise, and so when it comes to wanting to be loved, and when you want to be loved, it's easy for you to give love out sometimes, or that might not be love. It could be a sense of needing or wanting to love, or wanting someone to love you. Because believe me, Josh, I've been sitting up thinking about this all day. Because I recall you and Angel. Because I don't really talk to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I remember both of you guys asking me, don't you think you should go out there and visit first? Before you give up everything and just go out there. What if it don't work out? And I recall telling you guys, I ain't worried about that. We talked for a long time, and I'm very sure. I've never been so sure of anything in my whole life. You can't be that sure of anything in your whole life that you haven't really faced yet. You have to check things out.
You're right.
And so when I was thinking about that today, I'm like, I thought about what Kim had told me, that young lady I used to take walks with. I think I told you one day me and her was walking in the park out there in Las Vegas, and she said, what it is about you. She said, you're full of love. She said, but you're lacking love from other people. And she said, and that's sad.
Right.
She said, you're lacking love, and that's very sad. And so when you're lacking love, you don't know what it's like for other people to love you. And in a sense, it's easy for you to get caught up in the wrong type of situation because you're lacking love, and yet though you're full of love, and therefore you want love so much, and then this woman is Ethiopian, and you know how you experience all these black women, and you come to find out. Now, I will say this. Sandra put me through a lot of shit, but I had to catch Sandra.
Right.
This motherfucker do it right in your face. She'll destroy a relationship, and she'll put you in the friend zone and put you in a certain position and do whatever the hell she want to do. And she will walk around here knowing that you are gutted with pain because your emotions are still involved. And your emotions is still involved. And when you ask her, can I talk to you for a minute? She'll say, no, you can't talk to me. What is there to talk about? And yet still, she shows a little care here and there. And when, you are in my type of position internally, you start thinking that, well, maybe there's a chance that this will work out because she's showing me a little care. And then you perceive that, well, she's not really in touch with her feelings. Neither that, she's trying to fight her feelings, because you do these researches on Scorpios, and you deal with how women try to hide their feelings and all of that. You go through all of these thoughts in your head, and so for a little while, some of the pain goes away because there's some hope there, and then you start feeling better, and then you find out while you're feeling better, that better feeling is actually you putting yourself in a more vulnerable position because this person means what they say. They don't care. And so when they show you a little care, like today, when she texted me and I didn't I wasn't able to see the text because my phone had shut itself down, that she was on her way to pick me up from the park. But like I said, she didn't see me and I didn't see her. But when she got here, I was getting out of the shower, and you would think that this person had cared enough about me to just go and just jump in her car and come get me, because I was so far away. I mean, I was far, Josh. I was far away, walking in that sun, and telling her that, you know, my hands are swollen up and I'm exhausted and I need to jump in the shower and rest for a little bit. You thought she cared about that?
No. She stole it.
Yeah. She didn't care about that. As soon as she got here, she said, "I'm moving you into the room downstairs." And she started grabbing my stuff, and I had to take my computer apart. We had to bring this table downstairs, and I'm exhausted. And I'm like, damn, bitch, I just walked damn near 15 to 17 miles in this hot sun. But she was determined. She said, well, this is my room, and I want my room back. You know, that's soulless and humiliating and hurtful. And I'm like, whoa, what the hell is this? And then, up on top of that, she puts on this real tight white hoochie looking dress. And we talked for a minute about this room, because she was trying to rent this room out. She said she had somebody to come in and looking for this to look at this room. And so, but see, this is where she was putting me. And I said to myself, well, where am I gonna go as soon as this person come and look at the room? So my thought said, you know what? Rent this room from her, because if this person comes and they're gonna want to rent the room, where are you gonna go? You can't go to your aunt, because your aunt don't give a fuck. So I said, aren't you supposed to have somebody to come to look at this room? And she said, yeah. She said, but while you're in there, just keep it clean until I can get somebody in that room. I said, well, let's just do this. I said, I'll rent it. I'll rent it from you. She said, you will? I'm like, yeah. I'll just go ahead and rent it. She said, well, okay. And then I told her, I said, this is most likely the way we should have did it from the jump street. Maybe I should have been in this room first, you know, for a little while, and then you're upstairs. But see, when I was in Las Vegas, I think I told you this too. I asked her, I said, well, where am I going to sleep when I first get there? She said, you going to sleep with me? She said, she said, I'm buying this queen size bed for both of us. I mean, she bought a whole entire bedroom set for both of us. And then when I get here, of course, I'm a stranger physically, and so I told her I was going to make it easy for you. I said, I'm not one of these horny toad type dudes. I'm actually I can lay next to you and not, you know, try to touch nothing or anything like that. I was being a gentleman about it, and it's just a trip the way things turned out, you know, and it's a trip. That's all I can say about it. And I should have, regardless of what I should have did, you know, shoulda, it doesn't matter, because I'm out here now, and I'm in the middle of this, And you know, it's like she said, yeah, we should have did it this way at first. She said, well, you know, just start here and just see what happens. You know, we can just go from here. She told me that today. But where are you right now? See, it's this back and forth stuff. You know, the psychological games. You know, now this little Saab that she's driving, when it was raining earlier, she had to take a bunch of plastic outside and put it over the car to keep the car from getting wet on the inside, because it's a convertible and it's got some holes in it, you know, where it rains, it can drip in the car.
Right.
So it was raining tonight for a long time, off and on. So maybe she's over her sister's house or she's over one of her male friends' house because it was raining, because, you know, she can't drive in the rain. But all at the same time, you have to negate that kind of thinking. And it's not that you can't, you have to think the worst. I'm finding out tonight you can't think at all. You gotta totally let it go. If she's over one of her male friend's house, either she's fucking him or not. You can't care about that. If she's over to one of her, if she's over to her sister's house, laying up in her sister's house, you can't even worry about that, because she don't give a shit how you feeling. Because look, even if she's over to her sister's house, if she cared about, well, I know me and him ain't together right now, but I know he's probably wondering where I'm at, so I'm gonna call him and let him know I'm just over here to Mulu's house. She didn't even do that. And so tonight, I'm looking at this saying, okay, whether her sister's house or whether she's over some nigga's house laying up with him, I can't be concerned about that.
Right.
But all at the same time, my feelings are still involved. I can't help but to be concerned about it. So what do I do about this?
Yeah, because you are human. You can't negate that.
Right. And that's the whole thing about the way people treat you. The one thing that they negate is that you are a human being and you got feelings. They don't give a shit about that. And that's how you find out that you're not really dealing with a human being. You are dealing with people who are soulless. And when they are like that, karma is building up for them. But I've even got to the point to where the whole concept of karma, when you hurt real bad, for some reason, karma becomes a little bit more difficult to believe. Because me, when somebody hurt me physically, I usually retaliate immediately.
Yeah.
But when it's not physical, it hurts even more, because you want to see some form of retaliation immediately. But karma doesn't work like that. Karma doesn't step in like that. And so, due to the fact that it doesn't step in like that, you have to learn how to let go. But like I say, you're caught with this, you're trapped inside of this flesh. You remember when I told you that when the Creator started bringing me back, I told the Creator, no, I don't want to go back.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
And what I meant by that is I didn't want to be reunited with the flesh so that I would have to feel love and fear for my sons, heartbreak and sorrow, because that's what this flesh carries in it. It carries all of those things. And then you live long enough to find out that love, this whole thing, love, that's just as painful as anything else. Love is pain. You know, because in the movie The Final Conflict, when Damien was sleeping with this journalist woman, he started being real rough with her. And she said, Damien, you're hurting me. She said, this is painful. He said, death is pain, love is pain. He said, everything is pain. And when I first heard that, I didn't get it. But since my accident, and then when this happened, I'm like, now I understand exactly what he meant when he said everything is pain, because everything is pain. Now, most people may say, well, I doubt that, and they only doubt it considering where that information was coming from. Well, it was coming from him. Well, it's true. I mean, if you live long enough, and just because it comes from him doesn't mean that it's not true. And that's probably one of the primary grudges that he has against the Creator. Why would you put us in something like this flesh to feel pain and sorrow? What is it that we have to learn? Why do we have to suffer?
Right.
And then they say, well, the common Christian, the common religious, every single religion and religious person and unreligious person, everybody has this one primary understanding, is that in order to get where you're supposed to be, wherever the hell that is, you have to suffer.
Yeah, it's all that whole, there can be no struggle with progress. I mean, there can be no progress with struggle, no pain, no gain mentality.
Yeah.
And it seems like here on planet Earth, man, like you saying, it seems like that's the thing, like it's from what I'm getting, it seems like that's on the way to really get anywhere. It seems like that's the world that we've been thrown down into.
Yeah.
A struggle, the world of struggle.
Mm-hmm. And then,
I guess that's why it's called this planet a prison planet, in a way it's like a prison of struggle and always fighting for what you want.
mm-hmm. And then you ask the Creator, okay, what is it that I am supposed to get? That profound get. What am I supposed to get out of all of this? How long am I supposed to suffer until I actually get it? And what is the get it? What is that shit? What is it? It's a never-ending suffering. It's like you're trapped inside of a dual compartment that is just a whole bunch of back and forth struggle, and it seems like the whole thing is a fucking game, and you're trapped inside of this whole movement of manipulation because you have all of these dual things, and you going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Love, hate. Oh, she hates me. Oh, she loves me. And so, love and hope, and you get all excited, and then here comes hate, which is the dual compartment. But if love is love because of hate being a dual compartment, then fuck love then. Fuck it. Why can't you create something that is good without a dual compartment to where it just remains good.
Right.
But there's nothing created that is all good. And that's my gripe with the Creator. And that's why I tell everybody, just like I told my aunt, the Creator ain't all good. That's a lie. That's a lie. Because it tells you right there in your book that thing created evil also. It created evil as a dual compartment to good. So as far as I'm concerned, ain't neither one of them worth a damn. Good and evil is bullshit. So where do you go? There's nowhere to go.
In the midst of the transformation and the death of the present self and therefore the former self, you have to make certain in your perception that there is no hatred being cultivated inside of the developing state. This is the challenge of the death and the transformation. No rage. There is anger, disappointment and hurt, but these are not ingredients for the human being who is being transformed to adapt, because this will in time go in opposition to his or hers peace of mind.
That last video was me talking to my brother, Joshua, who's in Texas. And that was the night where I questioned everything on how I got in that position. I was placed in a room, you might as well say, that really wasn't a room. It was like the lower patio area of her condominium, which she turned into a room so that she could eventually rent it to someone. That same night, I overheard her on the phone with one of her male friends, and she was saying, I put him down there in that room because it's dark. It's how she say, it's damp, and it's cold like a grave. And I said to myself, what was it that I did that caused her to feel the way she feels about me? What did I do other than just give up everything in my life in Las Vegas to move here to become one with someone who I felt was one with me? And you know, as I laid there, I was laying back on the bed like this, and I was looking into darkness, you know, because this room had some electrical things, but didn't have any vents. So it's like you didn't have any heat in there unless you in time buy a portable heater like I did. But that particular night, I didn't have any heat in that room, and it was very cold. And so I turned out my lamp, and I laid back on the bed, like I said, and I was just staring into darkness. And I said to myself, how did I get here? And so it had came to me in concentration. I wasn't in meditation at the time, but I was in deep concentration, and my mind went all the way back to our first conversation and how we were both exchanging what we want out of life and everything. And it hit me to where I say, okay, it's like when you think about the mentality that you had back then, you say, okay, what was my thinking pattern back at that time? It was very common. I wanted to get married. I wanted to be with someone that I can pour myself into. I wanted to become one with someone and everything. And, just those common things that you are taught in this Western civilization, which doesn't necessarily go in harmony with everyone's reality, because this is a cultural design. You're born, you're raised up, you go to school, you graduate, you go to college, you get a degree or a PhD, you meet someone, you get married, you have children, and then you die. That's usually the case with most in this country, because that's the pattern that is laid out for us. However, it's not for me. It's not for me. And so when her and I conversed about what we wanted out of life, we're both writers and everything, we talked for at least 6 to 9 months. And so we had planned on being together and getting married and all of that hocus pocus, bubbly bullshit. And so I was frustrated with living out in where I'm living now in Las Vegas, because I bumped into a lot of bad experiences out here. And so I had to think about, okay, how did I get here? It's because I felt as though what I was getting ready to accomplish with her, I wasn't able to accomplish with anyone else. And plus, the city of Las Vegas, I felt was very cruel to me. And so with all of those things being expressed to her, she convinced me to pretty much give up everything. And it was very easy for me to be convinced to do such, because I was hurt and I was angry and I felt like I wanted a change in my life. And so I gave up everything, as I said, and I moved to Georgia. And then I found out that you might as well say like 60% of what she told me wasn't true. And so when I got there, it was a lot of things going on. She was seeing this older guy named Mark, and it's just a whole lot of things that was going on, and all of that information is in a previous video. But this video primarily deals with the death of the former self and the birth of someone who is going to be a lot more aware of things, and who is the person that I've become now. So I would rather just skip over all of what happened in the relationship and all that, because that's really not important. But what is important is that in my other video, I had made that statement that provoked a lot of people to send me messages and asking me, what did you mean when you said that other guy who I was I lynched him, I killed him, and I left him in Georgia. So if you would, if you're interested in seeing that version of David, you have to go to Georgia to find him, because that's where I left him. I left him there because I felt as though he was a problem. So the night when I was laying back and I was in deep concentration, a question hit me like, am I really the problem here? Am I really the problem? Is it really me? Is it her, or is it me? I came to the reality that when it comes to your living experience, all of the choices that you make, regardless if someone manipulates you or convince you to do anything, you are responsible for your thinking process at the time. And you're responsible for the decisions and the actions that you make. So that wasn't enough for me, because I still felt like I was an endangerment to my own self. And so that night, I believe it was almost 3 o'clock. I think it was like 2:47 a.m. in the morning. Now, outside of this patio that I was living in was her backyard. And it's a wooded area. It's like if you was to leave the backyard and you go to the parking lot and you look to your right, all you have is a big wooded area. And, you know, we used to see deers come out of that area all the time. And so the wind was kind of steady that night. And so I walked over there in the wooded area where I mentioned the deers are always coming out of there. So I walked in the woods. It was, you know, at night, it was really dark. And the only thing that was giving me light was the moon that was shining light through the trees and everything. And so as I walked further and further into the wooded area, I came upon an area that it looked like, you know, those areas where a whole lot of Southern people would cut around and make a circle area for where they could come up with meetings, or even an area to where a lot of the men used to try to make moonshine. It was one of those areas. And so what I did, I got in the middle of that circle area, and I had sat down and I allowed myself to go into meditation. And once my mind was no longer had any visuals, and I didn't have any audio in my mind, like your favorite songs or voices or anything. And it takes time to get there. And so once I was brought into a state of being to where it is even beyond a state of humility. And once I wasn't even able to hear the wind brushing up against the trees, I was led into myself. And that's when the meditation begins. Now, meditation has nothing to do with a certain posture, sitting a certain way. No, that's not meditation. Because if you're sitting in a certain way with your fingers like this, your attention is on maintaining that position, and that's not meditation. So you have to clear your mind of everything. You have to be at peace with your surroundings, to where there's no fear involved. My knowledge that this is where the deers are, and there's a possibility of something biting me. You know, I allow my mind to be freed of all of those possibilities and those fears, so that meditation can begin. And so once all of those things were no longer present, I was being led in to myself. See, you have to be led into meditation. I hear a lot of people say, I went into myself. No, that's effort. No. You going into yourself? No. You have to be led into the self by way of the creator and the universe. So when I was led into myself and my mind was at a state of humility, I wasn't looking for anything. So there was no images. I didn't have any intellectual questions, as far as why am I here or anything. You have to totally go into a state of silence. You can turn your music down and your room can be quiet, but silence is within the mind. And so once I allowed myself to go in harmony with the silence that the creator and the universe permitted me to have, that's when the meditation started. And what was brought before me was what I realized was the fact that it was my own wants, my own ambitions, and my own lust, and my own sense of dissatisfaction, my sadness, my anger, my rage, all of those things. And when all of those entities, you might as well say, were put before me, and I accepted them as my flaws, then it was revealed to me who the problem was. And it was my present self is what got me out of Las Vegas, regardless of how much she manipulated everything. She was able to manipulate that brother. And so suddenly I realized who the problem was. Now, I might not have been the problem in the relationship, but how did I get there? How was I able to be lured out of Las Vegas, away from my sons? Was it primarily her who was the problem, or was it primarily my state of being able to be manipulated and led away from my life? I saw myself as the problem. And so when I was revealed to me as the problem, and I saw myself for who I am, the problem was revealed to me. And so this clarity came to me that says, it's time for you to die, bro. You're the problem. She's not the problem. It's you. So it's time to die that you may live. And so from that point on, I was led deeper into meditation, and I no longer made any type of intellectual excuses of the reason why my current self was the way he is. Because when you make excuses for the current self, the new can't manifest. And so once I allowed myself to dislike who I was, and to even allow myself to grow a hatred of who I was, I begin the separation from the current self. And through that separation, I was able to remove myself from him and put him to death and say, never again. Never again. And so from that point on, I understood exactly what the problem was and how I got there. And I had made the decision that it's time to live. It's time to live. I separated myself, and I no longer made excuses, for my previous self. And so I embraced the new David. And during the transformation and the transition period, and when you're going to allow your previous self to die while you're going into being the new, you have to make absolutely certain that that separation and therefore death doesn't have a tendency of filtering in the new self hatred, animosity, bitterness for anyone outside of yourself. And so when I separated myself totally, and I'm hoping a lot of you are at least understanding this a little bit. But once you get clarity on the mistakes that you made, which got you in the current position, you have to understand now that you are enlightened to what the problem was. That person in the past has to die. You have to leave them behind. And so when I reached that part, that clarity, once I understood why I was out there suffering and what got me out there, I separated myself from that person. And in that particular area, you might as well say I lynched him and I left him there. And once I stood up and I turned around and I went back to that room, I knew exactly what I had to do from that point on. And from that point on, what she did to me, the things she said to me, and the things that she was doing in front of me, like bringing men over, staying out all night, those things didn't bother me anymore. And I know that she was concerned about that because there was numerous times she brought a whole lot of men over. And I would say, hello, how you doing, man? I'm David. And that angered her because I'm supposed to be hurt. But the guy who she used to talk to over the phone, the guy who she met at the airport, and that other David, he's dead. Now you're dealing with a new David, and this David doesn't care. Now, my brother Angel, he had asked me when I told him that that I had died in Georgia, and that whole experience in Georgia changed me. He said, did it change you for the better or did it change you for the worse? And I told him, I said, in some aspects, it's made me better. And in some aspects, it made me worse. Because beforehand, when I was in Vegas, when I was out there, I was here in Vegas, when Brother Angel and I started getting to know one another while we was part of this ministry. As a matter of fact, it wasn't just him only. It was everybody in the ministry noticed that Brother David would weep a whole lot, during prayer, or when he would talk about something that he felt was very important to him. I would weep a whole lot. And one of the reasons why I was overly sensitive is because when I met them, I was bleeding on the inside because of everything that I went through in the ministry out here in Las Vegas, when I used to go around and speak in different churches, and a whole lot happened, with the church and Nation of Islam, and all of those things had transpired. And so I had left the ministry, and I had planned on isolating myself for 5 years of study. But within those 5 years, a friend of mine named Michael Towns had me get involved with this ministry called Exalt Ministries. And this was no more than just about a year after I had left the main ministry to go in isolation to study. Now, within 1 year, that time, Michael Towns had introduced me to Exalt Ministries, and that's how I met Brother Angel. And so I wasn't really ready to be around people because I was still in a whole lot of pain. And so I had caught myself going into an isolation to study because of what happened in the ministry. And then 1 year into that isolation period, I joined another ministry, and I suffered a whole lot in that. And, it was a lot of back talking, and it was a lot of manipulation. I got close to this sister there named Kim, and it was a whole lot of people like Brother Angel and her sister backstabbing me. It was a mess. It was a mess. So along with all of that transpiring, going through a whole lot of things in the economic system, I shared a whole lot of that with Salam Yilma. And through that, that helped on her behalf to convince me to let go of everything in my life and to go there in Georgia and just start anew. And so I felt like that brother who was able to be manipulated, he had to go. And I felt like it was because of him was the reason why I was laying back in that cold room in the dark, in a grave, you might as well say, the grave that she, to her understanding, put me in. And so he had to go. So that's what I meant when I said in the video that brother, I lynched him, he's dead, and I left him in Georgia. Because the person who I am today is much different. Now, who I am today, I'm still kind, I'm still considerate. I'm not as angry as I used to be. However, my dark side right now is very dark. It's very dark and intense because of, I believe it's only because of being more enlightened. And therefore, once you become more enlightened, you of yourself, you become to love yourself even more immensely. And so when that person is understood as being in danger, the way that you respond is going to be very intense as far as you feeling as though you have to execute your side that is considered dark in order to protect the better part of yourself. So it's a bit complicated for most people, but that's what this background is all about. The yin and the yang and the balancing of the self and the clarity, being able to cause the clarity and the intelligence, being able to cause those two activating entities, which is our dual sense, in order to coexist with one another, in order for you to be successful. So it's simply a growing period, a shedding period, the shedding of the old self, and the embracement of the new. And while embracing the new, making certain that the debris of the old, as far as the weaker points of yourself, or the evil points of yourself, or the anger, all of those things are not able to interfere with the new self, so that you can be successful. So I will never make the same mistakes that I made before, because that's not who I am anymore. I mean, I've learned from him. And so I would rather not associate myself with him intellectually, emotionally, or whatever the case may be. So regardless of how evil that I was treated, regardless of my times in Georgia being some of the worst times in my life because of the people who I came in contact with, it was still a beautiful lesson because I survived it. I survived all of that. And I like the person who I've become through the trial. And so the trial was dark, but it was beautiful all at the same time. And so with all of that being said, there's some things that I have to do. And if there's some more that that's going to come to me that I'm going to be willing to explain, then I'll just further make a video. But always be willing to take responsibility for the mistakes that you made. And sometimes while you're doing certain things, you really don't know if those things are a mistake until after the fact, until after you make the mistake. I mean, of course, no one is aware that they're making a mistake while they're making a mistake. You have to first make the mistake first, and then realize that what you said or what you did was a mistake, and make the decision to no longer make those mistakes again. And that's how that's the process of growth and enlightenment and change, you know. So I guess with that being said, that's pretty much what I meant. And I just thank the Creator that I survived it. And I was also asked, do you have any hatred towards her? No, I don't have any hatred towards Salam Yilmah, because I met Salam Yilmah. My intentions towards her was very honest and very good. And, you know, and like I said on one of my previous videos, I tried to reach out to her and she didn't respond. And so I've moved on with it. I've moved on with it. You know, I'm just answering a valid question about my comment. And so with that being said, like I say, I have some things that I need to attend to. And so if there's any more questions or anything like that, then feel free to ask me. But with all that being said, like I always say, I just want everyone to stay human, regardless of what you go through in life, no matter if it's perceived as harsh, dirty, cruel, or anything like that. As long as you maintain your humanity, you're able to stay human, you're going to be the winner every time. You're going to be the winner every time. Okay? Y'all have a good night. Peace.